Hello everybody, Mannix here. Got a little knife review for you right here, right now. But first, as always, feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you do not want to miss weekly knife and gun videos. This is going to be on the 1 in 7 for 25 Mossy Oak 2024 holiday deal at Walmart we got going around with the shaft lock. Now in the package, the other 6 knives, or 4 of them more specifically, were these. There's variants of this exact knife right here, just with different colors. Simple, just tip down, liner locks, drop point, stonewash finish. Not bad for the money whatsoever. One of them has a flipper, glass breaker, and a seatbelt cutter on it, and then another one is a lockback razor blade utility knife. But this is the one I think most of us are going to be intrigued by, and it's the sole reason I bought the whole package in the first place. Now, if we're buying this knife in bulk, so to speak, if we were to divide the $25 into the 7 knives, that's about $3.57 each, excluding tax. So let's say this knife's about $4. So a little under $4. Is it worth it? It's one of the best $4 knives on the whole planet. Arguably the best $4 knife on the whole planet. Each year, the knives from Walmart are getting better and better and better. Ever since 2022, where that OG shaft lock hit the scene and everybody was talking about it. Next year, we had the 3 for 15 pack where this guy was in there, along with the 2 liner locks, but this shafty came out as well. We had 2 other $5 shaft lock knives that were very good. They just keep getting better each year for that price point. Now, this is not an Ozark Trail, it's a Mossy Oak, but it's in that same ballpark of the super ultra low cost folding knives that got the shaft lock or crossbar lock, axis clone, whatever you want to call these things. I bring out this blue one specifically because it's the only other time I've ever seen this exact variant on this type of locking mechanism. It looks like it's the exact same housing, the exact same plastic over the pillar itself, exact same locking mechanism as the others. It's just we got some plastic external pieces that allegedly make it a little bit easier to grip onto. Personally, I think I prefer these over the regular cylindrical kind. It's just plastic and you can see it's like jimped, so to speak, everywhere. Let's get some specs out of the way real quick. Overall length of just above 6.5 inches. I don't have a laser or anything, but I'm assuming it's just like 6.55. Handle length, I want to say is 3.7, somewhere around there. It's probably 3.75 in that ballpark. And then our blade, just under 3 inches, just a hair under 3. Looks like it's got steel liners in there, so the weight, 2.55. Wow. Basically just 2.5 ounces. Okay, not bad at all. Sub 3 ounce folder for a blade that's just about 3 inches. That's really not bad at all if you're watching your weight. I can only assume this is a polypropylene handle. The reason I assume that is because that's what all of the Ozark Trails are still using, polypropylene. On the package for these knives, it just says injection handle. So it's some kind of polymer. I'm assuming it's the same stuff, hard plastic, and it's not FRN. There's no glass content in it, but that apparently keeps costs down a bit. And I have not experienced or even heard of anyone having any issues with any of those Ozark Trails handles cracking or having any problems like that. So I'm going to say the polypropylene is A-okay. Stainless steel blade, it's probably 440A or 3CR. Again, just going by what we have on the Ozark Trails and from how this blade seems to be performing, it seems to be just around there as well. A soft blade steel, but sharp out of the package. You could certainly do better. You can touch it up yourself to strop it a little bit. It won't last forever, but it'll get sharp very fast. And that's the trade-off with the cheaper blade steels, so long as the heat treatment is okay, which it seems to be on these, just as well as all those other Ozark Trails that are cheap at Walmart. The knife companies have certainly been getting a lot better when it comes to the cheap stuff. It's a different time now. I know a lot of people crapped on cheap knives and still do today, but it's not 20 years ago. Now in the 2020s, cheap knives have certainly been becoming a lot more worth it, especially in comparison to how they were all those years ago. You can take these apart, put them back together a handful of times without the screws stripping too much. Generally speaking, lockups are generally good. This one has very good lockup. It's actually bank vault. There's no up and down on this one. No side to side. I think I did adjust this one out a little bit. I made sure it was tight and I oiled it up and all that to make sure it deploys, open and closes nice and smooth without the pivot being too loose and there being any side to side play. So I got it to that point. It's pretty much a bank vault lockup. That's very, very impressive. It's very smooth. I do not believe it is on ball bearings. It just looks like it's on washers. I didn't take it apart. It doesn't feel like it's on ball bearings, and from what I can see, it just looks like nylon washers. Totally fine. They're nice and smooth enough. Ball bearings would have certainly set this guy over the top, but it is what it is. This is a fantastic pocket clip. No issues whatsoever. It's absolute chef's kiss. It is perfect. The tension's perfect. It looks perfect. It's very simple. It's blackened. It's loop over, rounded. It's not going to scratch against things too easily. Knife companies, if you don't know what you're doing with pocket clips, do this. Just take this design. If this knife costs less than $4 and they can do it, I'm sure you can do it too. mystery solved. Although I do kind of wish it was flush mounted into the handle. It's not, it's just slapped on top of it. I usually like seeing an actual cutout in the handle so it gets nice and snug in there. Kind of like this Ozark Trail. You can see there's a cutout in the handle itself and it's nested inside of there. It's just a much nicer, more snug fit, but it is what it is. Still good enough. There's plenty of knives out there that cost way more than this that do this anyway, so not going to complain too much there. Thumb studs are cylindrical, nice and rounded at the tips, as to be expected. It's totally fine. Drop point blade, blackened. It's probably some kind of like Teflon finish. It feels smooth, kind of lubricated, so I'm assuming that's what it is. Expect it to wear, expect it to scratch off if you actually use this guy hard. I like the green color. It's like a hunter green, forest green, whatever you want to call that. It's cool. I like it. Tactical, blactical, kind of looking. Good looking knife overall, not bad. Very, very simple, but very effective. I like the texturing on here. Whatever kind of pattern makes me think of like an alligator or something. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's, you know, it gives a little something, something. It's not a textured grippy knife by any means. It's pretty smooth, but I think it's better than having a blank smooth handle. It just gives it a little something. We do have some jimping on the spine of the blade up here. It's very smooth though. It's so shallow and rounded. It's barely even effective. You look at it from a bird's eye perspective, like, ooh, it's got jimping. But if you actually use this thing, your thumb basically just glides over it. It's almost useless. I suppose it's better than not having it at all, but it's not very effective. Ergonomics are good enough. It's kind of chunky, it's kind of thick, and I do normally like the thicker handles. The problem is the handle is short, and that's when I don't like very thick handles, because now it feels kind of cramped, and I feel like I don't have enough to hold on to. I don't like how towards the butt of the handle we have a protrusion. It looks like it's supposed to be a guard, like if I only use 3 fingers, it envelops my last finger to come into contact with the handle. But I got 4 fingers, like most people, so it just kind of rests on the tip of what looks like is supposed to be a guard. I don't like that. It's the exact same problem I had with the Cold Steel Voyager Medium. They don't make those anymore, but that was almost this exact same length, and it had a handle. It was even worse than this one, but it had the exact same issue, and that's exactly what this is reminding me of, is that knife handle. Not a huge fan of that. It just feels cramped. I just wish I had a little bit more to hold on to, or maybe this was a little bit slimmer, or this was just not there. Something like that would be kind of cool if they just made any kind of adjustments like that. But pretty much all of the knives in the package have that same problem, or at least I consider it to be a problem. Maybe you won't, but it's whatever. It's not a big deal. I'm kind of nitpicking at this point. It's totally fine. Ergonomics are okay enough. Deployment is good enough. I would give it like maybe a B+, A-. It's fast and it's smooth. It's just not a ball bearing. It's not fair for me to give it a total A+. It's almost there. I have to really kind of thwack it if I want to do the whole fidget thing with this blocking mechanism. I really got to give it a strong wrist flick. I do have the knife kind of tight. There's no side to side. So if I loosened this guy, it would probably be a lot more fidget friendly, but then I'd have some side to side. So it's up to your priorities. Totally acceptable. Again, not bad at all. The lockup is good. The deployment is good enough. The ergonomics are good enough. Blade steel, good enough. It performs fine for the money. Knife is very good looking. It doesn't have a weird, goofy design. The pocket clip is perfect, other than the fact that it's not nested in there. And it's not ambidextrous either. That's another hit I got to give this guy. It's just, it didn't drill in some holes on this side for whatever reason. Maybe it really is that detrimental. Maybe they couldn't keep the cost this low if they did that. I'm not really sure why, but regardless, they have an attempt at jimping. I wish it was a little bit deeper, but it is what it is. And I really like this style shaft lock. I like this sort of thin oval shape rather than the circle shape. I just think it grips a little bit easier. It's slightly stiff internally. That could have something to do with the fact that it's not the smoothest action. Not really sure, but I do like it. Again, only other knife I've seen it on so far was this blue 6-in-1 $15 combo back in 2023. Almost feels exactly the same too. It's about just as stiff, pretty much. But I like how this one's got just a longer handle. I have more to hold on to. It's thicker too. As you can see, it's the closest knife I can think of to this guy is this blue Ozark Trail on the left, but this one just feels so much more ergonomic. I just have a lot more to hold on to, and there's no protrusion down here. I don't like that. Not a huge fan of that. But funny thing, cutting edges are almost spot on, despite this green knife being just a little bit shorter and a little bit more compact. So as far as efficiency goes, you could argue it's better in that sense. You want to save as much weight as possible. It's good for that, I suppose, but really cool knife. Excellent EDC knife, especially for the money. You could probably get away selling something like this for like 15 bucks or something, but for $4, less than $4, I mean, granted, you got to buy the other 6 knives to get this one as far as I know, but if Mossy Oak whoever these guys are, they just made knives more like this, make them ambidextrous, make some better jimping, throw some ball bearings on this guy, nest that pocket clip in there, $10 price tag. Dude, you would not be able to keep these things on the shelves. People would just find out, hey, look, Walmart's selling these things on Instagram and YouTube, and everyone would just gobble them all up at the Walmarts immediately. Guarantee you, give us different color options, different blade styles. Oh my gosh, really, really good EDC knife. Probably the best on the planet for $3.57. It's this guy right here. Despite its minor flaws, it's really nothing to complain about for this price tag. If it was $20, I'd be complaining a little more, but for less than $4, there's not really a whole lot you can say. So yet another good, cheap shafty from Walmart. If you just want this knife, you don't really give a shit about the other 6 in the package. You just want to make those things stocking stuffers, glove compartment knives, tackle box knives, toolbox knives, hidden stashed knives around the home, whatever. That's a totally good excuse to get this one, my friend. It's actually not that bad, even for the $25. So totally worth it for the money. For less than $4, that is an 11 out of 10, my friend. So getting more and more concerned for the other knife companies now, because we're getting some very decent, if not very good, folding knives for less than $5 coming out here. Anyway, that's it. Do you have this knife? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. It's always interesting to hear what you guys have to say, and I always learn something from you. Thank you so much for watching. Mannix out.